Meat City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video, and today we're covering the Sith Triumvirate Raid once again, and this time we're focusing on the Nightsisters team. This is one of the essential teams that you need to have in your lineup if you want to contribute meaningfully to your guild for the heroic version tier 7 of the Sith Raid. And my guild right now, we're working on tier 6, we're getting through it fairly quickly, 3 to 4 days. We're not quite at the point where we need everybody to be in order to clear heroic, myself included. It's pretty much been mapped out at this point what you need in terms of your guild's lineup compositions. One of the challenging aspects to this raid is that the lineups aren't very flexible at this point. If you want to clear phase 1 or 2 of the AAT raid, there's a number of teams that you can use. Well, right now, the phases are kind of restricted to a couple of set optimized lineups for you to get through the heroic phases of the Sith Raid. And if you want to be in a guild that's going to be completing them, you need to have a couple of those set teams. So one of the set teams is the Nightsisters, and the phase that they are slotted for, that they are really good at, that is a really, really difficult phase, is phase 4, and specifically phase 4.1, which some people refer to it as when all 3 of the bosses are up: Darth Nihilus, Darth Sion, and Darth Traya. Typically for phase 4, people focus down Darth Nihilus first, then Sion, and after they're both down, then Traya is able to be engaged for the final fight. However, this fight with normal teams is really tough because all 3 bosses can attack. Nihilus has his Annihilate, Sion stacks his Pain, and Traya can isolate and eliminate characters through that mechanic as well. However, the Nightsisters have proven to be very good at this phase because they can manipulate the turn meter of the enemies very well, and they're also super resilient because they get taken out, but they can be brought back, and as they're brought back, the team gets stronger. So, this is a team, they're good for the Sith Triumvirate Raid, and they are really good for other aspects of the game as well. You can have an under-geared Nightsister team and do well in the arena. Most teams for the arena need to be gear 12 and fully decked out. Not so with the Nightsisters. There are a couple of special lineups that use stealth mechanics and you can kind of use to get by at a lower gear level than you would otherwise need. Dark side territory battles, really good for that. Territory wars, really good for that. So, worth the investment for sure, and pretty much required to participate in a heroic Sith Raid run. So, what I'm going to do in this video is show my very first run through phase 4.1 of the Sith Raid. This is tier 6. Like I said, we're not quite at heroic yet. My team is far from complete. There aren't too many videos out there showing the Nightsisters in the Sith Raid. There are a couple, but they're mostly geared towards the full optimization at the top of the chain. These are test accounts for the most part, not all, but gear 12, full zetas, and they're kind of focusing on how you do the absolute most max damage that you can with these teams. How do you mod them? And I don't know about you, but for me, I've got one good mod set that gets moved around whenever I need it. It's on my arena team, and if I'm doing a run through the raid, it needs to get moved. If a assault battle comes up, it gets moved to that. If the ATST comes up for the Ewoks, they get moved to my Ewoks. So we don't all have a deep roster of mods that we can move a perfect crit chance, crit damage set to each character and back and forth. So this team is completely undergeared. It's a mess, but it's my top priority right now. I went from almost no Nightsister team at all to one that is functioning, but very far from optimized. So this team, it's gear 12 Ventress. I did prioritize getting her to gear 12, my 6th gear 12 character. The first one I haven't done specifically for my arena squad. So she is at gear 12. Daka is gear 10. Then Acolyte is gear 8. And then Talia and Mother Talzin are both gear 7. So far from an optimized team. And what I did with this team, 1.4 million damage in this tier 6 phase 4.1. The only Zeta on the team is Ventress's lead, which I think is the most essential. It's what makes this team work, specifically in this phase. The gist of it is you gain 50% turn meter, any Nightsister character, when they fall below 100% health. And there's a 50% chance to steal turn meter when any Nightsister damages an enemy. So the turn meter gain from falling below 100% health triggers off of Traya's Bonds of Weakness. This is not a bug, this is intended, and it doesn't look like this is going to be one that gets nerfed. There was the infinite loop from Stormtrooper Han and a bunch of effects that got nerfed. This is not indicated to be one of them and should not become one of them. So you're safe to invest for this reason without fear of that happening. And again, if something crazy did happen, they're still really good in just about every other aspect of the game, other than ships, as they don't have ships of their own. So when the Nightsisters are at full health, if you heal them up to full health, if they do an attack that sets off a heal or health steal, they'll go to full health. Then the Bonds of Weakness will trigger and drop them just below full health. The Bonds of Weakness trigger for little health, but if they go from 100% to 98% health, then they're going to immediately gain that 50% turn meter. So they go very quickly compared to the enemies. And then you can also steal turn meter or remove turn meter from an enemy, not Sion because he's immune, but definitely from Darth Nihilus. So if you're sending all of your attacks at Nihilus, which you should be in this first phase, as he's the more dangerous character with his Annihilates, Drain Force, and the other things that he does, he's usually the first target, you can send most of your damage to him, and you'll be reducing his turn meter, slowing him down, preventing those Drain Forces, preventing those Annihilates from going off for as long as possible. So that's the gist of the team. That's why it works. That's why it's good for this phase. So I'm going to do a quick intro into what each of the characters on the team does, their specialty, and in the background is the footage playing. I'm not walking through what I'm doing at each turn here, mostly because I don't know that it's right. As I said, this is the very first time I'm going through this, and part of what I'm hoping to do here is introduce this as a basic concept for people who don't have this team. Tell you what they can do even before you get them fully geared, so you can start investing and start seeing a return on them before they're fully maxed out. But also, there's people out there that are running this team. People out there who have experience, who have the minutia down, and so you know more about this team than I do. So what I'm hoping that we can do here is kind of create a little bit of a guide or a dialogue. Not so much at the top tier, what each tiny mod said and all that is, but the basics on how to use this team. Am I making a mistake with how I'm attacking or a certain way that I do the moves? If I use the basic, should I have used the special? Those kind of tips. So if you see something in the background as I'm playing through, feel free to share your knowledge. I'm hoping to use that as I do my second run, and hopefully I'll improve my score. And of course, if your tip is one that actually I use and can see and turn into something that improves my team, I'll of course give you a shout out in the next video. So feel free to contribute. Every time I put a video up, there's somebody who finds something that I do, some tweak, something that you can optimize. This is your chance to do that, because I'm sure there is room for improvement in the play and how I'm using this team. So with that said, let's get into the team that I'm using and what their roles are. Ventress. Ventress is the all-star here. She is the leader, and her leadership, of course, gives that turn meter manipulation that I was talking about early on. She also has a heal. The heal is really good because it removes buffs, and that increases the heal. And again, if you heal everyone to 100% health, the Bonds of Weakness will trigger, they'll drop below, and they'll gain 50% turn meter. So you want to be damaging with Ventress whenever you can. She is a high damage character, and her damage goes up over time because it stacks based on other characters dying, allies and enemies. Kill those sides as often as possible. Let your allies die as long as it's not DACA. And when they come back, every time they're dying, they're increasing Ventress's damage. So she starts off not doing great damage, but by the end, the last couple of waves, she can really dish out some punishment. So use her heal if you need turn meter on your allies, right? If they're a little bit low, then get that heal out, give yourself some turn meter. If everyone's close to 100%, then get some damage out, because again, the point of the raid is to do damage. Ventress is one of the big damage dealers, so make that decision. If you need the turn meter, heal. If you don't, damage. Old DACA is next, And her main thing that she does, she of course heals and has a powerful heal, which is important, but she also revives. She can revive multiple characters at once for this Nightsisters, and so it is very important that she does not die. And there's one exception to that. If you're running Mother Talzin, her second special can bring everyone back if it kills an aside, but that's a niche situation. Pretty much, Daka needs to live so she can continue to revive your characters. So if she goes down, you need to restart your run. However, Daka has high health. She gets the plus 20,000 health because she's a healer in the raid, so it's pretty easy to get her not to die without really bad luck, really bad multiple attacks in a row from the enemies. So don't let Daka die. Keep her reviving people, keep her healing people to keep that turn meter train going. Then we have Acolyte, and her main focus is damage. She recovers 20% health on a crit. So you want her to be critting. You get her crit chance up as high as possible. And when she crits, she heals 20% health. And her basic can double tap. So you can kind of get a little mini infinite loop going with Acolyte. It's hard to do with a weaker team like I have, because as the bonds of weakness stack up, it's taking too much health from my characters and they're not getting back to full health. But if you have meaty health pools and meaty heals and all that going on with your characters, you can do this a little more frequently. Basically, if she attacks once and is near full health, she'll crit, she'll go to full health, the bonds of weakness will hit her, so she'll get 50% turn meter, she'll double attack, so she'll attack again, go to full health if she crits, bonds of weakness will again hit her, so she'll drop below full health, so she gets 2 hits of the turn meter gain, and it's a 50% turn meter gain. So if she gets both, she goes to 100%. So you can see that you do that multiple times in a row. Double tap, both healed her to full, both give her turn meter, she ends up with 100% turn meter and can go again. But each of those attacks is an ability being used, and it adds a bonds of weakness to the counter. So if you get to 50 bonds of weakness, each move is going to be taking a lot of your health, and you won't be able to do it. So you can get a mini loop going 3, 4, 5 times in, and then you need to use the special to break up the chain. Talia is there strictly for heals, but that's important to this team, keeping everybody topped off. Daka can't do it on her own, so Talia is a great choice here. Her basic heals, she has a group heal, and her third ability can also have a heal. It does a special attack and then can follow with a basic, which again will heal. So this is all about heals, turn meter for the team, keeping people topped off. Then for this run, again, it's my first one, I used Mother Talzin, partially because I had been working on her. Like I said, I knew Nightsisters was a priority. I wanted to be getting a team ready for heroics, so I prioritized Mother Talzin before she went farmable with some crystals in the shard shop that I was getting, and now I've got her to 6 stars, and I'm working on getting her to 7. So I put her in here because I had her kind of ready and wanted to see her in action, but I don't know that she's the best choice, and this is one of the things I'm going to reach out to the community for here for some input. Initiate is another easy-to-get character that can be geared up without too much trouble and has a crit chance of buff. So would using Initiate here be better than using a non-fully geared, non-zetaed Mother Talzin like I'm using? What's the analysis there? What kind of goes into it? Basically, Initiate, I don't think would do more damage, raw damage, but does the crit chance up lead to a better performance for the team overall? Does it get Ventress going? And does it keep Acolyte going more consistently if you don't have Acolyte at 100% crit chance? So again, I'm using Mother Talzin here. Plague is the second thing, but it doesn't really stick to the bosses here, and she's not in her leadership, so it doesn't spread as much as if she was. But there's a chance you can get it to stick on the sides and maybe get a little bit of plague out there, but I don't think it's enough to justify Talzin for that reason. The other thing she does have, as I mentioned earlier, is her second special is a spam attack. So it calls everyone in to attack, and each of those attacks can remove turn meter. So it might happen once or twice in the video here. Nihilus could be at 50, 60% turn meter. 6 Nightsisters come in to attack, and that's going to wipe out a good chunk of his turn meter. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. It does also delay his turn a little bit, and it's an emergency button. If Daka goes down and Talzin's second special is up, you can target one of the side minions, and if you take it out with that special attack, with that swarm attack, it will bring back all fallen Nightsister allies, including Daka, and that might save your run and allow you to continue. So, again, something to think about. The final option is Zombie. And Zombie might be the best choice, especially if you have a paper zombie, a low gear level zombie. I have low gear level zombie. I didn't quite get it to 6 stars yet, so I can't use it in this run. But the idea there is Zombie can take Annihilates, can take Isolates, and die, and still come back, which your other characters can't. And the more Zombie dies, it can taunt. The more it dies, the more it comes back, which also can increase your Ventress ramp up more quickly. So maybe Zombie is overall the final choice at the end. Again, anyone out there who's running this in the Heroic who has put time and effort into these teams, if you have thoughts on this, that would be great. And also the question of paper zombie versus geared up zombie. Do you find it's better to have a zombie that dies over and over again, or is it better to have a beefy zombie that's geared up, that takes hits without dying and protects the rest of the team? Again, Heroic is probably going to hit harder than we're seeing here. So does that mean Daka's in danger if you don't have a zombie that's taking those hits? So again, something that I'm certainly looking for info from the community out there that runs these Nightsisters. I'm sure there's a Nightsister Discord. I'm sure there are those experts out there. This is your chance to help me out and help the community out. Anyone who sees these videos certainly will appreciate it. So the basics here. Don't lose anyone, as I was saying, to an Isolate or Annihilate. If you lose a character to either of those attacks, they don't come back from Daka's Revive. So, if Isolate gets put on somebody, you need to cleanse it. If Annihilate is coming up, you need to use the event buff to absorb the hit and not lose the character. I have videos on this, on how you can predict Nihilus' attacks. Feel free to check those out if you don't have a complete understanding of the mechanics. It's not random, you can predict it, and you can prepare for it. Pay attention to bonds of weakness, as I was saying. You don't want to be cleansing too much because the stacks of pain go away, and those are increasing your offense. But when you have a weaker team like I do, then you need to cleanse more often because they can't take those hits. You need them to be healing to full health, and if they're taking too much damage from bonds of weakness, they won't be going to full health, and you won't be able to heal them back up to full, and then you won't be getting the turn meter manipulation. So find the balance. I think 15 to 20, 20 to 25 if you're running high gear level, well put together teams. For me, it was 10 to 15, and I was needing to use the cleanse when it came up. Heal when possible. As I was saying before, healing is always good. If you're getting to 100% turn meter, if you're getting to 100% health, you're going to be gaining turn meter. So unless it's Ventress and you've got a big attack you can use for her, and everybody is already at close to full turn meter, use that heal because it's going to speed up the team and it's going to get you going faster. And then the final thing, if you have defense down on a character, think about attacking Sion. Again, this is something to look at with Acolyte. You can get that train going, but if Acolyte has defense down, then every hit's going to be feeding some protection back to Nihilus, and then you might be nerfing your own damage if half of each hit is being healed through his own protection or is healing his protection. Maybe send that damage to Sion instead. Again, you want to focus on Nihilus when you can, but you also want to be doing the maximum amount of damage you can and not be wasting it. So those are the basic tips, again, on how to approach the raid with this team. A couple of questions that I want to throw out there again to the community just to see what the thoughts are. What is the correct optimized lineup for Phase 4.1? Who is that 5th member? I'm pretty sure it's going to be Ventress lead, it's going to have Daka, it's going to have Talia, I'm pretty sure it's going to have Acolyte, and then who is that 5th? Mother Talzin, Initiate, Zombie. What's the situation there? What are your thoughts, pluses and minuses, to get the most out of this phase that you can? Then the upgrade order. Again, the point of this is to show that you don't need a fully maxed team to be able to crack 1,000,000 damage. And again, 1.4 million on my first run. I'm sure I could do better just by improving my play, let alone improving the team through gear and ability matching. This team wasn't even fully Omega, let alone Zeta. So I'm pretty sure the Zeta order is Ventress lead, which is the most important. Ventress is unique, which really gets her damage stack going faster. Also gets her health stack going. And then Daka's Zeta for her health, to get her health stacking so she doesn't also have the risk of getting one shot. Then after that, I guess Mother Talzin has a Zeta, and I think that's the only other one that's out there. And then after upgrading the Zeta order, the gear level order. Obviously, you want Ventress to be fully maxed because she's dealing damage, and the more gear, the more damage, and the more health, the harder it is for her to get taken out without being brought back. Then I think Daka is the second most important for gear level because you want her health to be high. Her health dictates how much of the heal is going out to the rest of the team. And again, if she goes down, your run may be over. So important to have her geared up. And then maybe Acolyte next. Again, one of the main damage dealers here. You want them fast, you want them dealing damage, you want them hitting hard. So I think Acolyte is probably the third one that you want geared up when you can get to it. And then, do you even want the rest of them geared up, or do you just want them dying as fast as possible? Is it better to have a Gear 12 Ventress, Daka, and Acolyte, and the other 3 at Gear 8 or whatever, so they just die over and over and over again and get Ventress powered up? Or is it better to give them some staying power, things like Talia, so you do have her healing more often? Or is it okay for her to die, and if she ends up living to a turn, then she gets a heal off, and that's fine? Again, I haven't had the chance to experiment with this too much. I've just had the one run so far, but if you out there in the community know and you can share that, I would certainly appreciate it and try to incorporate that knowledge into my run, and others out there would appreciate the information as well. So I think that's going to wrap it up here. I did put a second run in. This was just the final fight against Traya, phase 4.3, when Nihilus and Sion were both down. And you can see, not quite as impressive. Traya gains speed so fast when you're dealing damage to her in this last phase that she can really burn through her attacks, and she makes it to Enrage. I think I did 400,000 and a little bit of change there. So definitely in Heroic, you only get to use this team once. Phase 4.1 seems to be the sweet spot for these Nightsisters, and they're really good. Guys in my guild are putting up some mega numbers with powerful Nightsister teams, so it's something for me to look forward to, and something that I know I can do even better. But it's awesome to see 7 figures with this kind of crapshoot gear level team. That certainly blew away what my Titans could do in this phase. 5 Gear 12 characters that I've invested a lot into. The Nightsisters doubled their damage and then a little bit on top of that. So hopefully this video helped you guys out, turned you on to the Nightsisters, gave you an idea of what they can do, or gave you an opportunity to share what you know about the Nightsisters with others. I am planning to do a couple more runs with this, incorporate the knowledge that I learn as I do a little more research, improve my scores as my team gets better, and eventually, when we get to Heroic, try them out there and see what kind of numbers we can put up. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys. And also, if you didn't like something, if you saw something wrong, leave a comment as well. I always like to read those and improve my knowledge and hear the feedback from you guys. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.